Today is May 5th, and we're in Keys with Loraine Connor. In the room with me, Jacqueline Vajunik, is Nicole Colston. So, Loraine, could you tell us where you grew up and when you were born?
I was born on May 19th, 1925, and I've always lived in Cimarron County.
Mm-hmm. Where were you born in Cimarron County?
I was born on a farm about 6 miles out of Keys, and the town of Keys started the year I was born.
Wow.
And my parents homesteaded out there in 1914. They moved here from northern Kansas, and they had 3 daughters when they moved here. And then I was born, and that was 1914, and then I was born in 1925. So I kind of grew up by myself, but
So you're the youngest?
I'm the youngest, yes.
Mm-hmm. And tell me about your parents' homestead.
Well, they lived in a kind of a part of what later was the barn out there, but they had homesteaded north of Guyman in 1910 and had a house built there. And then my mother's mother, my grandmother, in northern Kansas got sick, and they went back till 1914 and then came back to Cimarron County and homesteaded. And so they built the house, and then with several teams of horses and wagons, they moved that house to the homestead in Cimarron County. And that's where I was born.
And did they farm?
Yes, farmed.
So what did they grow?
They grew wheat and milo.
Mm-hmm.
That was the main thing.
So did you help them farm?
Well, I think I drove that farm all once in a while, but not much. No.
And did you go to school here?
I went to school 8 years at a country school about 3 miles from where I lived, out 6 miles out that way. And then when I went to high school, I went to high school here and graduated from high school in Keys, yes.
Mm-hmm. Could you tell us what the community was like growing up?
Well, there was houses on almost every half mile going to school there was a house. And sure not that way anymore.
So there were a lot of people here.
There were more people, yes. In fact,
Mm-hmm.
I started out with 6 in my first grade, and there was only 2 by the time I graduated, but that was after the Dirty 30s it started, and people started moving away.
So you were here for the Dirty 30s.
Oh, I was.
Could you tell us a story about it?
Well, the very first bad storm that blew in from the north, I do remember it. I had a nephew already that was, I think I was 8, but he was 2. And we were playing out in the garden area and looked north, and oh, it looked bad coming, whatever. It was really dark, and so anyway, I think we went in and told my dad and my older sisters. Well, one sister was already married; they had children, but then I had two sisters that weren't, and their boyfriends were there. It was a Sunday afternoon, and my dad made us all go to the storm cellar. And first you could see, and then it turned pitch dark. And at first, when the storm rolled in, it just rolled in. There wasn't much wind with it. It was just pushing from the back. But that's the first one, the first black dirt storm.
Were you scared?
Well, I don't remember.
You don't remember?
I just thought it was an adventure going to the cellar.
What else do you remember about those storms?
Well, they didn't happen every day, like some of the stories say that it blew every day, but it didn't. We had nice days.
Mm-hmm. Did a lot of your friends, you were saying there were a lot of people and then they all started to leave, so how did the community change when people were leaving? Do you remember people leaving?
Like by the time I graduated from the 8th grade out there was just 2 in my class. But I think when I was in the 2nd grade, there was 8 of us, and we had two rooms. First 4 grades in one room, and the other 4 grades in the upper room. But then there was just 1 room by the time I graduated. So it changed.
Yeah. Could you tell me more about what was here during that time period? So you said there were a lot of people, so were there a lot more things to do? What did you do for fun when you were growing up?
No, well, I was always glad when I had a good friend that lived about a mile and a half away, and
Mm-hmm.
when she came, we had lots of fun. But
Mm-hmm.
I kind of grew up by myself, actually, and so it was. But my older sisters, they had play parties, and I'd run around the outside, and they played outside, and
Mm-hmm.
it was kind of like, well, they would sing and do the moves. I couldn't wait till I got old enough to do that. And then by the time I did, the people had moved away. And there wasn't that many people left.
You were alone. So you spent a lot of time by yourself,
Yes,
it
I
sounds
did,
like.
yeah.
Did you read a lot? What did you
I
do
read
for
a lot,
fun?
yeah.
Mm-hmm. And then you graduated from high school?
Yes, I graduated from high school.
And then what did you do after that?
Well, right out of high school, I went to work as a bookkeeper at the TMDL Lumber Company.
Mm-hmm. And that was where was that?
It was down here on the corner where the C-store is now.
Okay, was it a large company?
Yes, it was. Came out of Wichita, Kansas.
Okay.
And they had several TM deals
Mm-hmm.
from here to there, yeah.
So you were the bookkeeper there for how long?
For 3 years.
And then what did you do
I
after
got married
Okay.
and moved out about 7 miles out this way from Keys
Mm-hmm.
and lived there for 30 years.
And what did you guys do?
Farmed.
What did you farm?
We farmed wheat and milo.
Mm-hmm. And you helped with the farming?
Well, I didn't actually on the combine. We had 5 children, and
That sounds like a lot of work.
it kept me busy because there was scouts and Girl Scouts and Boy Scouts that I worked with. And then when my youngest daughter was in 5th grade, well, I went to work again.
Mm-hmm. Where did you work?
Well, I worked first at a drugstore down here, and then worked for Burrow Oil Company, which was down here on the corner right across the street from the C-store,
Okay.
for 30 years.
So when you were growing up, a lot of people left and you didn't have many people to play with as
That's
a child.
right,
But your
yeah.
children sound like they had a lot to do. So what was Keys like when your kids were in school?
Oh, it was a lot different. We had the Burrow Oil Company came in out here,
Mm-hmm.
and the helium plant.
Mm-hmm. So what did the helium plant bring with it? A lot of people?
A lot of people, and so did Burrow Oil Company, the CIG.
So would that have been the 70s? The 60s?
Probably early 70s or late
Okay.
60s.
How big was Keys then? Do you know?
Well, at least 500,
Okay.
I'm sure.
Mm-hmm. So what would if I was walking down the street in Keys, the main street, what did it look like?
Well, there's businesses everywhere, yeah. Where now it's vacant built places, yeah.
What kind of businesses?
Now, when I was, when I was little,
Mm-hmm.
first thing I remember, there was a doctor's office, and he was kind of like a chiropractor, I guess. He had some other thing that he just ran over you that treated your illnesses.
Mm-hmm.
And I know my oldest sister went to him all the time. And, there was a guy that ran they called him Uncle Bill, and he ran a kind of a tire shop and a garage and sold gas on the corner, just right straight down here on the corner. And every Saturday when we came to town, why, he gave the kids all a little treat.
That sounds nice. What
'Cause
kind of treat?
It was hard times,
Yeah.
so it would just be a piece of candy
Yeah.
or something.
But you remember that?
I remember that very well.
And what was it like when your kids were in school?
Well, it was different because, like the healing plant brought in a lot of kids, and there was 20 kids in a class, or 30.
Mm-hmm.
And when I graduated from high school, there were 10 of us.
And then Tyra.
And of course, World War II was already on then, and he was drafting even kids out of school. I mean, boys out of school if they were 18.
What would you say about your community? What makes this community special?
The people.
The people? Could you elaborate on that a little bit?
Well, I think this is the friendliest place.
Mm-hmm.
But I've lived here all my life, so I don't know how it is other places.
So you said you had 3 sisters?
I had 3 sisters.
Did they stay in town or did they leave?
No, well, one of them did, yeah. I don't think she's left yet. I have a great niece that's been here
Oh,
since
okay.
her husband's been here since Sunday night, and they're getting ready to go down to.
Okay. So you still get, everybody comes in. Is this where you consider home?
Well, this was where my folks bought this house and moved to town when they moved to town.
So this is your parents' house?
Yeah, it was.
So you've been in this house for a long time?
For 30 some years now, yeah.
And how long were your parents in this house?
Oh, let's see, they moved in 49, and my mother died in 72, my dad in 79. So.
It's a while.
Yeah.
So what was your... So you were back to saying how this community was special. So you said the people are very nice. Could you give me an example of what makes them so nice or so special?
Well, like if someone dies, why our churches have funeral dinners and, you know. I had one yesterday down at our fellowship hall.
How has the community changed since you've lived here?
Well, it kind of boomed when they started drilling for oil and gas around here. It boomed, and then now it's slipping back. But they have leased some more land in to drill some more, so and wind farms to their.
So do you think the community will survive because it survived the Dust Bowl and it survived?
Oh, it should, yes.
Yeah.
And the wheat looks pretty good this year.
So how has farming changed?
Well, they, like they plowed up a lot of the ground and didn't know as much about taking care of it, as they do now. They have better ways of farming and better machinery. And of course, when my dad first came here, he farmed with horses. But by the time I was born, we had a tractor.
And how did you and your husband farm?
Well, with tractor and combine and all that, yeah.
Did you use center pivot irrigation? Or
We didn't have any irrigation.
No
We
irrigation.
irrigated. No, I still have the land out there, but it's dry.
And are you renting the land?
Yes, I have a nephew that farms it. And then we still have my dad's property up here. There's a lot of errors involved in it, but.
Do you remember good years or bad years for your family in terms of farming? I mean, obviously.
Yes, they come and go. Yes.
Yeah.
Like there'll be a year you don't raise anything.
What years were the worst years for your family?
Well, while I was growing up, the dirty 30s were. I can remember that.
How did it impact your family?
Well, I don't know how they stayed here, but they did.
Do you remember it being very stressful for your parents?
Well, I didn't know that it was. I'm sure it was, but I was like 8 and 9 years old, when that was going on. In fact, it didn't actually get over till I was out of high school, I think, till that we started having were really good. But what helped the country was when they started drilling for oil and gas and leasing the land and that sort of thing.
What are some of the biggest challenges to living in this community? Because you've described all of these changes.
Well, I guess probably it is a farm country, so when there's not any crops, why it's not so good. But people hang on. Some people leave. That's just the way it is.
What makes you think some people are tough enough to stay and some people leave? So what is it that the people who stay have that keeps them here?
Oh my, I don't know.
That's $1 million question.
Did you ever think of leaving when it was tough?
No, in the 1950s when I was already married and out there, we had some bad years too, but.
What were the worst years for your family? So you described it was very bad for your parents in the 30s, but for you and your husband, what was the worst time or the most difficult time for you?
In the 50s when we had another drought and dirt blew again, but.
So could you describe how that impacted your family?
Well, I don't remember that we were stressed out about it, just the next year was going to be better.
What happened to your crops during that time?
Well, sometimes we didn't have it.
So what would you do if you didn't have a crop?
Well, we'd probably borrow some money and hang on.
And hang on.
Next year would be better.
Because there was no insurance then.
And then my husband did carpenter work on the side.
So he had a side job.
Yes, he had.
And were you working at that time, or you were
No, I was
stay at home?
not at that. Not in the
Mom.
50s. I didn't work.
Okay.
My kids were growing up then.
So how would you describe this last drought? We've been in the 2011 was a very bad year. Would you say that was a worse drought than the one you're describing in the 1950s?
Oh no, I don't think so.
Okay. So do you think that the technology is making people deal with drought better? Because
Yes, it is. The way they farm and that deals with it better too.
That's good. So right now you still have land. How many acres of land do you have?
Well, I have 2/4, 360 acres out there, and then up here we have 400 acres.
When did you stop farming?
Well, when my husband died,
And what year was that?
1975.
And how long when did you get that land?
We got 1/4 of it when we got married.
Okay.
It belonged to his parents, and they gave us 1/4 of land. And he moved a house in there, and that's where we lived. And then after his parents passed away, well, we inherited the other 1/4, or I did. He was already
Passed. That must have been difficult. He died pretty young.
Yeah, he did, 51. He had leukemia.
Okay. That would be hard. And you had 5 children?
Yes.
And how old were you then?
Well, let's see. I was 22 when the first one was born, and I think 31 when the last one was.
Okay.
And
So did you stay on the farm after that, or did you move to this city?
we stayed on the farm until he got sick.
Okay.
And by that time, my dad was in the nursing home at Guyman, and we moved into this house just to kind of keep it. And then I worked as a bookkeeper down.
So were you still running that land, or did you start renting it immediately?
Well, no, he was still involved in the farming some.
He was
when he
farming.
felt like it. Yeah.
And you said it was dryland wheat and milo, and you grew that for the whole time. That's what you've always grown on that.
Yeah.
Did you change your technologies when there was drought? Did you do anything
Well, I'm sure
different?
they did. I wasn't really involved in the farming
in it.
part. Yeah, 'cause he farmed with his dad and his brother.
How did when there was drought, did it increase the stress in your family, or you don't?
Well, I don't
It's
think
just-
it did. We were busy, and
Just kept busy.
as long as we had food on the table, and we did.
Loraine, did you keep a garden or anything when?
Oh yes, I used to raise a garden out in the country.
How big was your garden?
Oh, I don't know how big, as big as this house or bigger.
And what did you plant?
Oh, everything. I mean, tomatoes and cucumbers and cantaloupe. And I don't remember what else I planted.
Did you can?
No, I never did can much. No.
Is it hard running a household? You had 5 kids and a farmer's wife. Was that difficult? I would imagine it's a lot of work.
It is work, but I didn't think so at the time. I would now.
Right. Do you now think of all of the work you did and say, no wonder I'm tired?
Did you have relationships with other mothers, or how did women get together then? Or did they?
Well, I mainly worked with my kids. And
So mothers didn't get
usually
together
there
to
was two
talk?
mothers that had a scout troop or something like that, and then I worked with the Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, and we went to church.
So through the school and through church and different activities.
Yeah.
Did you feel as a woman that you were often alone a lot? Like
No.
that you didn't get to talk to other mothers, or
I didn't think
Because
of
now
that.
there's
No.
such a support group for mothers hanging out
Yeah.
together and stuff. It was different then.
It's different when you live in the country. I think you just don't think about that.
Yeah. Did you guys have a lot of socials? Were there a lot of social events your community had?
Well, yes, through the school and through the church there was.
What are some of the biggest social events you used to have on a regular basis?
Well,
Are there any that you looked forward to every year?
that Guyman has a Pioneer Day, and used to
Mhm.
always take the kids to that. And
And was that a big event?
it is a big event, still is.
How many people would come?
Oh, thousands, I guess, would go to Guyman. They'd have a big parade. In fact, it was just this last Saturday, but I don't go anymore. So.
Were there any other local things that you always did as a community?
Well, just mainly things that went on at school, at the school, and the church. And that's the main social thing.
So the school is very important to the community.
Yes, it is.
Sounds like.
Yeah.
Is that still true today?
It's still true today.
And do you still participate in a lot of school-related activities?
Well, I go to the plays and things. None of my kids live here in town, so I don't have any great grandkids going to school here.
Is the school as important as the church in terms of the community? Because it sounds what I'm hearing is that the church and the school are really the fabric.
It is. It's what holds the town together.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
It's probably in that sense the school is more important because it includes everybody. There's 3 churches in town, and
how many
Yeah,
has
it
that
is.
changed since you were younger? Were there more churches or less churches?
well, there was. I think that's about how many there has been all the time. Well, there did used to be one more church.
So what are the denominations of the churches?
Well, we have Methodist and Baptist, Church of Christ, and then there was a Pentecostal at one time.
Could you tell what it was like to go out on the town? Because you go down the main street and you see this wonderful movie theater, and what was it like?
Okay, that got built while I was working at the lumber yard because we didn't have our boss had moved away, and this guy came in and said he wanted to build a movie theater. Well, it was during war times, and you couldn't get material.
Right.
So, this assistant manager and I, we had to call Wichita and ask, if there's any way to get enough bricks to build this. They sent us 3 carloads of brick, and that's how it got built. And it was there for several years, but it was a good theater, but it's gone to rack and ruin now. But
Was it popular?
oh yes, had big crowds. Yes.
We would have big crowds. What would you want this generation of kids to know about this community? Do you think they have the same sense of community that you did? Or do you think the community's changed so much?
I'm sure it's changed because we have a lot of like Mennonites and Spanish people have moved in, so it's bound to have changed.
Do you worry about the future of the community?
Well, kind of. I just hope our school keeps going because that is the main thing that holds it together.
So what would happen if the school closed?
Well, I expect the town would look worse than it is now.
It sounds like it's not going to happen. I don't think people would let the school close.
Don't plan to.
I noticed in the newspaper, Will contributes a lot, and a lot of Keys information is in the Boise City newspaper. What do you think makes maybe Boise City and Keys different or the same?
Well, there's been a lot of competition there over all the years, in sports and things like that.
Yes.
Especially in sports.
Healthy rivalry.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, what makes you guys different than Boise City?
Oh, I don't know. That's where we have to trade. We don't have a grocery store.
Yeah.
When you were growing up, did you go to Boise City very often?
Oh, very rarely because
You didn't need to.
there was about 2 or 3 grocery stores in Keys then. Yeah.
So there were 2 or 3 grocery stores. What else was there in Keys?
Well, there was the filling station down here on the corner of the Burwell where I worked for 30 years. Well, that was there, and then Bill Gabriel, that we called Uncle Bill, was down here on the corner, and he was also the mortician in town, and and then they had a pool hall.
Oh, wow.
And restaurants.
More than one restaurant.
Well, I remember Bill Bragg's, but
So you would never you wouldn't need to go to Boise City at all?
not, well, yeah, it is a county seat, so you'd have to go there once in a while.
Did you think of it as the big city going into town, or did you
Well,
not really think about it much?
it's just Boise City.
It's just one thing you mentioned a few times was World War II. So how did World War II impact this community?
Well, it took all the young men,
Mm-hmm.
and
So what did the women do, especially since so many people were farming?
well, they left the farmers pretty much, and I think they only took them up to like 38.
Okay, so it was the young men.
Yeah, it was the young men.
And what did you guys do to show patriotism during that time? Because if you go into Boise City to the museum, you see that there was a lot of patriotism in the region. So what do you remember doing?
Oh, well, I remember buying bonds and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Do you rent any state lands for
No.
You never have? You never had
no.
that?
It's mostly more west up
Mhm.
here, west of Boise City, and out that way is most of the state lands.
Do you know much about the CRP program and people putting land back into grass?
Well,
you remember when that?
We had the land, my dad's land, in the CRP for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and we got a payment every year for keeping it,
Mm-hmm.
not farming it for a while.
Do you think that's a good program?
Well, for some things, I think it's good.
A lot of that land's going out of CRP in Cimarron County. Do you think that is a good thing, or do you think maybe that's something that there should be more land in CRP, given the history
As long
of
as
the
we have
area?
rain and all that sort of thing, we don't.
Mhm.
But you know, if it's drouthy, well, it's pretty good to have it in the
Yeah.
CRP.
Speaking of drought, how would you say, do you think the weather now is very different from when you were growing up? Have you noticed changes in the weather?
Well, of course, I grew up in the dirty 30s.
Right.
It's changed a lot.
So how has it changed?
Well, this year we had snow and we've had moisture.
So it's not as bad as the 30s.
No, definitely not.
Were there? I know I've heard some stories about swimming holes that used to exist or didn't exist. Were there places that you went to swim or play that?
Yeah, well, no, I never did learn to swim. And of course, when they built the a new high school down here, well, they put a swimming pool in it, and my kids all learned to swim there.
Uh-huh. That is pretty
But
special.
I used to swim in the horse tank out home.
Mhm.
But I never learned to swim.
Are there different plants that you notice when there's been drought? Has the vegetation changed at all?
Well, when there was drought, there wasn't any vegetation.
Okay.
When it rained, the water all ran.
Right. Or blew
ran down
away.
the grader ditch out there, and I'd go play in the grader ditch. It's about the water.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Have you noticed any other changes over time? Are there more trees now or less trees or more juniper or any kinds of different changes when you drive across the county? Have you
Well,
noticed
when I was a
changes?
kid, we had a peach tree that, well, my dad had built a pond at one time, but in the dirty 30s,
Uh-huh.
that dried up.
Right.
And I know we had a peach tree out there that had peaches on it once in a while, but during the dirty 30s, it didn't. But
And it survived the 30s?
no,
No,
it
it didn't
didn't.
survive.
And there was other trees, a willow tree, I believe it was. It's been a long time ago.
A willow
I think it was
tree.
a willow tree was there, yeah.
Would be hard to keep alive, I think, here. Could you talk about we're interested in weather, so we talked a lot about drought, but what about snowstorms? Because you've had some big ones.
Oh, we have. I remember one, but I was probably 4 or 5 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And it was really a big snow, because I remember walking on the high drifts and things.
Oh, wow.
But the one I remember the best after I was married was in '57. So my youngest daughter was just a baby, and it snowed and blew. I mean, it was a blizzard I think we got about 9 inches of snow, and it was just piled up.
Goodness.
In fact, we had a swing set out in the front yard, and the snow started on the north side of it and went clear over the swing set, and then got higher as it went on south, and the kids got out in dishpans and stuff like that and slid down that snow. They had so much fun. And that's the biggest snow I remember. We were snowed in for 2 weeks, I think.
2 weeks. So what do you have to do when you're snowed in for 2 weeks?
Well, we just, my husband did the best he could to take care of the cows.
Yeah.
We didn't lose a cow. And all
You
we
didn't
had
lose
was
any.
just a open shelter. I mean, a shelter on the north side and came up over it, but it was open on the south side. And we didn't lose a cow, but our bull was down at my in-laws' place, and he was in the barn, and when my father-in-law opened the door to let the cows out after the snow had quit, the bull walked out and dropped dead. So,
Oh, wow.
so
that's
but our cows, who were in more snow,
Less
they all
shelter,
survived.
yeah.
Yeah.
So what would you do for them, other than you had a sort of open shelter, but what would he do to take care of them to make sure they were okay?
Oh, well, they grew feed too. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, he grew feed.
So you'd always have food.
Yeah. So they had something to eat, yeah.
What would you be more worried about with your animals, drought or snow like that, a blizzard?
Well, blizzards are not good for cattle, especially if they're out on the open range. Because they just...
So if you were snowed in for 2 weeks, what did you do for fun in 2 weeks'
We
time?
probably played games and read. And,
Uh-huh. And the school would just be closed for 2
oh,
weeks?
yes. Well, it happened in the last of March and
Wow.
went into April, I think, at that time. Yeah.
Loraine, I know a lot of people help each other out around
Oh,
here,
yes,
so could
and
you tell us some of those
At that
stories?
time, I was, I had worked all day on Friday, and I was going to go to town on Saturday to get groceries. I was about out of flour and bread and that sort of thing, and then it got up Saturday morning, and it was a blizzard. And I mean, it blew for 3 days, or 2 days anyway, and finally, and we didn't have a radio for a while, but finally the electricity came back on. We had a radio. After that, we got a battery operated one.
That's good.
But anyway, when the electricity came back on, well, then we could listen to the radio, and all the people that were stalled here and there, they rescued people off the...
So was there a local radio so you could hear announcements?
Guyman had a
So
radio
could you
station.
send messages to other people, or would you be able to?
Not that way. We didn't. We just had a local telephone out here that went down the barbed wire fence at that time.
Okay.
You rang so many rings and rang at everybody's house.
So if something important was going on with your family, like if someone was injured or hurt or needed some sort of help, how would people communicate? So there's this phone. Growing up, how did people know?
Let's see. You could call the main office here in town. In fact, they did get they airlifted somebody from town.
That's now.
Well, no, that was during this
Then.
snowstorm, this
Okay.
bad snowstorm. After it got over,
But when you were in the 50s, when you were farming and you were recently married, and how did people communicate with one another? There was phone, but if there was some community event going on, was it the radio station channels?
Yeah, the radio
was it the
station.
newspaper?
Yeah, they were on 24 hours a day. And normally I don't think they were, but they were then. and just telling about people that were stalled here or there.
So you know everything that was going on just by listening to the radio.
That's about all we knew, yeah, at that time, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, some neighbors, a neighbor man came from on a tractor and brought us some flour.
Very good. Yeah.
They lived about 2 miles down the road, but by telephone, we could talk to our neighbors.
Uh-huh. That's great. Was there a lot of helping each other on the farm? So or with the cattle, would one family help another family?
Maybe
And of course, my husband farmed with his father, and
Okay.
so they helped each other all the time.
Mm-hmm. And what about the animals' branding? Did they help? Did you have branding parties or anything like that?
No, I don't. I helped with some of that.
Uh-huh. So it would be the family
Yeah,
mostly
be the
helped
family
each other.
involved in that pretty much. Yeah.
Did you need to hire many people, or it was mostly all in the family?
It's mostly all in the family. Yeah.
Have any of your children become farmers or ranchers?
No, they haven't. I have a son that works for a gas company, and a son that is a computer person,
Mm-hmm.
and my daughter as well. I have a son-in-law that does some farming, but he also has a truck company. And
Mm-hmm.
But it seems your nephews picked it up, though.
well, he lives here, and I don't have any grandkids that live.
Yeah.
Well, my son lives at Elkhart. That's not very far away. My youngest son, but
Mm-hmm.
he works for Anadarko, and that's a gas company. So.
If you were younger and wanted to make a living farming here, is it hard to be a young farmer here? It seems like a lot of people have
I think that most of the young farmers here now their parents are pretty big farmers. There's
Okay.
not any little, just hard to be a little farmer here now.
Mm-hmm. So when you first started, how many acres did you have?
Well, we had the quarter out there and then the quarter next to us.
Could you start here now on a quarter?
No,
No.
no.
So you need to have a lot bigger
Yeah,
operation.
yes.
You were talking about Uncle Bill was really important in Keys.
He was the best for the kids, especially. Yeah.
Who are other people that sort of make the community shine, or that you remember?
Well, I remember one of the guys that worked at one of the grocery stores that kind of liked my sister, and he always gave me something. At the grocery store. I definitely remember him.
Was Keys ever big enough to have its own police officer or fire station?
We have a policeman
You
now.
do? You do?
We
Yeah.
do have a policeman now. When you were a teenager, what did you guys do for fun?
Well, I lived out in the country, but then,
Right, but everybody has fun.
Yeah. But anyway, and after I stayed in town through the week and worked at the lumber yard, well, I had fun with it.
So what would you do for fun? What did that mean?
Well, do I want to say? We got out and knocked on doors.
And ran. They still do that in my neighborhood.
Tricksters.
Did you dance? Did you like to go to dances? Did they
Well,
have dances?
Well, I didn't square dance until after my husband and I took lessons, and when my youngest daughter was a senior in high school, we decided we need something, 'cause
Yeah.
she's going to be leaving. And,
Where did you take lessons?
well, we took them here in town.
So the town would have lessons of various sorts?
Well, yeah, they'd had one group of lessons already. I mean, they'd kind of revived square dancing here, and
That's nice.
there was one, and so we took lessons. And then after that, I took that time my nephew was a caller, and he was giving lessons over at Boy City, so I went over there with some ladies, and I just took a course and have danced ever since till my legs got to where I couldn't dance anymore.
Do people still square dance around here?
We still have a club here,
You
but we
do?
don't dance very often. I mean, don't have it very often.
How big is the club? How many
Not
people?
long. It got so small, we just can't have a dance hardly anymore.
Mhm.
But Perryton is still in our district. My niece and I we were district presidents for a long, long time, and we're state historian of the Square Dance organization now. So
That's
we
great.
go to Oklahoma City still, and we
That's
have to
great.
keep these big old scrapbooks.
That's great.
Did you have local musicians who used to play for you at your square dances?
Well, yeah, they play with records, you know,
Oh,
and now
records.
they use computers, but
Mm-hmm.
Would you ever go? I know that Kenton, they had a band. Would have been around the 50s, and they used to have people would come from all over to hear music. Would you go to see musicians play in different towns? Was that a big event, or did you mostly have a social life in Keys?
mostly a social life in Keys. I remember when they used to have Negro minstrels in Keys. That's kind of outlawed anymore, but
Mm-hmm. So you're mostly Keys people stayed in Keys.
Stayed
Did
in
you go to
Keys.
Boise City
well,
for
for some things,
social
yeah.
things?
Yeah, we do anymore. Yeah, I didn't when I was young, but
Mm-hmm.
So dancing was a big part of your life after your husband died, it
yes,
sounds
yes,
like. Yeah.
it was.
And Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts seemed important to your
Yeah,
family.
it was. Yeah.
Yeah. Was that through the church
Or the
No,
school?
or
not-
the school?
Well, it was just through Scouts.
Through Scouts,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes
That's
it's affiliated.
The head of the organization was a guy, and
Have you been in the same church your whole life?
oh well, when I was a kid, I went to Sunday school every Sunday. We had just Sunday school at the Berg School where I went to school,
Mm-hmm.
but we didn't have a preacher, so we just went and had Sunday school.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
As I was growing up, and then after I was married, we went to join the Methodist church here in town. Yeah.
How has the church changed since you've been going to it?
Well, we started out in a basement church. When we joined it, it was in what we call the fellowship hall now.
Mm-hmm.
And then we built the church. In fact, my husband helped work on that, build the church, and then built a new parsonage. And he worked on that. And then they redid the old basement and made a fellowship hall out of it. He worked on that. So
Outstanding.
Has the population changed of the church much?
oh yes, yes. Like when the school was big, but the church was big too.
So what are the challenges your church faces to stay open?
Well, we need more people.
Mm-hmm.
So your husband was a carpenter and he helped with the church. What other types of buildings or people did he help? Do you remember?
Well, there's several homes that he helped build. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
In fact, he built this part out here on this house.
That's great.
When my folks first moved here in this house, it was 4 rooms, these 2 and that 2. There was a kitchen back there, and he changed that into a bedroom and moved stuff in here
Changed a lot.
to be a kitchen.
Did he work more in carpentry when there was a bad drought, or did he have a
Yes.
pretty steady business?
Well, he worked just to supplement the income, when we needed it.
You said you had cows and bull. I was wondering how many head you had. How big was your?
Oh, probably 20 or 25. We didn't have a lot, ever.
Did you have raised calves? So,
Yes.
Yeah,
mhm,
right. 'Cause you had the bull. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I used to have to help
With the birthing.
with, I just mainly helped when they put stuff in their ears. I mean, to mark them. That was the main thing. We marked them. They didn't brand them.
Oh, like a tag or something.
The earring.
Yeah.
So if your husband was in charge of the farming, were there things that you did that he didn't do? Like, I guess imagine you
When they were
could.
cutting wheat, I took lunch to the field.
Uh-huh.
And one time got out to get the car to go and it wouldn't start, and there was a tractor out there, and my oldest son knew how to drive a tractor, so we got on the tractor and took food about 4 miles away to where they were.
Via tractor.
Were your kids actively involved in farming with your husband?
Well, yeah, when they were younger, yeah, till they went to college and got other jobs. And,
Did any of them want to be farmers?
no, I don't think so. No,
Yeah.
I don't think they was ever interested in being farmers.
It's difficult work.
Yeah. Of course, I have one daughter that is married to a farmer, and they do custom cutting. They live at Campo, Colorado. Which
Okay.
my kids don't live too far away, but they all live. Have a daughter that lives at Liberal, and she works at Walmart. And a daughter that is the director of the library at Guyman.
Oh, that's nice.
So they're all
pretty
relatively
close.
close.
Yeah.
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 So did they still participate in a lot of activities the community has for big events?
Well, not here. Oh, they come for things, yeah.
They do come to
Like,
things.
my daughter works at the library, and my daughter from Campo, and her 2 daughters came. We had a mother and daughter banquet just last week,
That's nice.
and down at what we call the Chicken House, which my niece runs down.
What is the chicken house?
It's, well, she has a little catering business that
Okay.
you have to go there to eat, but and have over 10 people, but
Yeah, I call in advance.
But anyway,
How big is the mother-daughter banquet? How
I
many
think there was
people?
32 of us there, 30 some.
That's great. So how long has that been going on? Have they
Oh,
been-
for years. Yeah,
For years.
Yeah. It's part of our church.
That's nice. Is it just part of the church, or do other people in the community participate?
Well, if a mother has, I invited my
Yeah.
daughters from other places.
So it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah.
pretty open. Is there, since it's such a small community, but there's so many churches, because 3 churches for the size of the
Yeah,
community is
yeah.
different, but do you feel like everyone participates in everything? There's not
Well, like
sort of...
when you have a funeral dinner, everybody brings food. In fact, you get so much food you don't know what to do with it.
Well, that's good.
When your husband passed away, I just can't imagine how difficult that was. Were the people that were important to helping you and your kids get through that?
Oh, well, yes, of course, I had 3 of my kids were already married, and
Right, so they were
Yeah.
grown-ups, yeah.
well, in fact, 4 of them there were 4 of them already married, yeah, at that time, and just my youngest daughter was still in college, you know. And so really, yes, but I still worked, so, I got by fine.
And how did the community help you? Because I always feel like this is when you know this community's special
Oh,
or unique.
everybody helps, yeah, everybody, they bring food, and yes, that's the main way,
Bring food.
yeah.
Do you feel like you've lived 2 lives because of that?
Yeah.
Not getting to do the second half of your life with your husband.
Well, I don't know, I just went on with it, you just have to.
Yeah.
Because he was sick for 2 years with leukemia, and he had doctored in Oklahoma City because he went to the VA hospital, and that's the only place they doctored.
So what are the challenges when you're sick in this community because you have to go so far to get help?
Well, we still lived out on the farm when he first got sick, and a neighbor came down and did the chores and took care of things, yeah.
So you always have people that help.
Yes, people help people here, yeah. That's one thing. Why I say the people are the main thing in this community.
And do you think that hasn't changed, or do you think that's changing?
Well, it's kind of changed in a different way. When I was a kid, when they'd pull the well, why, the neighbors would all come and help do that. If they butchered, the neighbors all came in and helped. I know Mother always had to cook a big meal and feed the crew.
But people always came.
But people came, yeah.
So now when you need to do that kind of work, if you were farming, who do you call?
Well, I haven't had to call anybody.
Right. But the people you know, do they hire people, or does their family come?
Well, some people have hired people all the time working for them, but mostly I know my nephew that farms my land. I think the guy that farms my dad's place up there, he has a hired man. So people hire people. but my nephew has a son that helps him farm.
What do you think the future of this community looks like?
I don't know. I really can't say. I think if, like, the wind farms came in, or they did start drilling more for oil and gas, it would change things. Because things boomed back then.
Do you think that the younger generation wants to stay here? So if
They
the
do.
jobs came, more
They
people
would probably come near stand, but the young people don't stay here because there isn't anything for them to do now unless their dad has a big farm.
What would you like for your grandkids to know about your family or about your parents or their history? I mean,
Well, we're a big family. My grandfather had 10 children. We used to have Shields reunions and down at Guyman, and 60 to 100 people would come, you know.
Big
But
family.
now all of my aunts and uncles are all gone, and I had one great uncle that lived to be 102, and 3 great aunts that lived to be, my grandfather lived to be 99 and left 99 living descendants, so we were a big family.
Big
Yeah.
family for sure.
lived to be 99 and had 99 descendants. That's good.
How long did you have reunions? Do you still have them?
Not now, no. I think my family had the last one we had, which was maybe 2000, and then maybe we had another one or two, but I just have 3 cousins that live at Guyman now. I think there's 6 of the original first cousins from my grandfather are still alive. But
Do you get to see them?
once in a while, if I went to Guyman more, I'd probably see them more. One of them's older than me, and the rest are all younger than me. So, because I will be 90 in 2 weeks.
I've noticed that something that connects the communities is, like you said, places of trade.
Yes.
You know, so there's the co-op here. When you all were growing wheat and milo, where did you go to sell it?
Well, there was 3 elevators in town.
There
at
was,
that time.
yeah,
There
okay.
was one down the south part of town. There was one down here on the corner, and then where that one is now, only it wasn't nearly as big as it is now.
Did you always go to the same one, or did you go to the one with the best price?
Probably the best price.
That makes sense.
And it was probably all about the same.
Did you have any chickens or milk cows? Or?
Oh, yeah, we raised chickens, yes. Ordered baby chickens in the mail and
And they would come.
raised them and ate them and kept them for layers. And so we had eggs. When I was really young, my mother always took her eggs to town to trade for groceries. That was kind of how you ate.
Right. So when you were little, did you buy much food, or you mostly grew it or traded for it?
My dad had piped water out to the garden. It came out of the stock tank, I think, because we never got water piped to the house, but it was piped to the garden. And he made some kind of tiles that he made 2 rows that you could water down them. So my mother raised a garden every year. I mean, some. So she had garden.
And even through the Dust Bowl, that
Yes,
garden was
even in the
okay.
Dust Bowl
Because
she
they
raised-
prioritized the water going to the
Yes,
garden
yes,
instead of the house.
Yes. But we had to carry water to the house all the time to the chickens.
So were you sick of feeding the chickens? Carrying water is hard work.
Yes, it is.
When your parents homesteaded, did they have a dirt well? Did they dig a well? Did they have a
Yeah,
water
they
tank?
dug well. I
Dug a well.
don't know just when they dug the well because I wasn't even born
Right.
then. But they had a well by the time I was born, and they had a car by the time I was born, a Model T. And I don't remember. I remember riding in it one time, I think, but
And what were your parents like? I mean,
well, my dad came from a big family because there was 10 of them too, and one boy had died while they still lived in Kansas, but they all moved here from Kansas, and some of them were down by Guyman, and Some of them were here, and
Were they homesteading in Guyman also? Or
yeah, they homesteaded down north of Guyman. My grandfather did. But I had an aunt that homesteaded up just about a half mile from where my dad homesteaded her. I mean, it was just in the next quarter.
Nice.
And then an uncle that homesteaded about a mile west of that, and then another uncle, but by the time I was born, they didn't have to live on that anymore. They just owned the land because they got it through homesteading on it. And then I had another uncle that homesteaded south, but he had lost his place, I think. He had a big family. And
Did any of your relatives leave during the Dust Bowl?
my relatives,
Your uncles or your dad's brothers?
no, they all stayed.
They all
down
made
there.
it.
They all made it, yeah. But most of them weren't really involved in farming.
So you had all these aunts and uncles close by. Did you spend holidays together, or?
We had family dinners and things that in the meantime, even before I was born, my grandfather had moved to Guyman, and they had this big house that had a big wraparound porch in the front. We always had family get-togethers there, but only maybe once a year or once every 2 years or something.
It sounds like Guyman is very important to you and your family.
Well, it was because all my aunts and uncles lived there.
Yeah. Did you spend more time in Guyman than you did in Boise City?
Oh, no, because we only went down for family reunions.
Okay.
And your husband where was he from?
He was born and raised here.
In Keys.
Well, not in Keys, but his home was out straight west of here
So how did you meet
in high school.
in high school? You were high school sweethearts?
Well, towards the end of high school. Then he went off to the war, and we wrote.
You wrote while you were.
Yeah, and when he came back, we got married got a house and all
Yeah.
that thing to live in.
Did you save all those letters?
Well, I've got some still.
That's great. Did you write him a lot of letters?
Oh, yeah.
Did a lot of your friends have guys that were off on the war too? Were you all in the same boat?
Yes.
Yeah.
So, what are some of your other favorite family stories? I mean, I want to.
Let's see. Can't think right now. Well, we always, and after the kids got a little bigger, and I think, well, Rachel was pretty small, but then we tried to take a family vacation every year. And we went to the Black Hills, and we went to Colorado, and then I had a sister that lived in Arizona, and we went out there a couple of times. Well, we went out to I don't know if you've ever been out to Red River and out in that area.
That's very pretty.
Yeah, we went out there about every summer for a few days. Yeah, when we did go somewhere else.
Did you take a lot of picnics around here? Because that's something I hear a lot. Like when you were younger, everyone going out to do a picnic.
I remember I was in the first grade up at Berg, and we went to Point Rock, which is up north of Elkhart.
Okay, I've never been there.
And I remember going there. That was when I was the first grade. And then when I was in high school, we went out to Wolf Mountain the school did for a picnic. And that's north of Boise City. And then our church used to go out to have church one Sunday out at Lake Etling. Have you ever been out that way?
Mm-hmm.
So when was that they would do that?
Oh, it's been probably 10 or 15 years ago. We haven't gone for a while, I know. Haven't had preachers that was very interested in doing that. But
Does the church still have a lot of social events?
not a lot. We always have a Thanksgiving dinner and invite the whole town, actually.
You do. So tell us about that. When did that start?
Oh, probably 15 years ago. I don't know.
So you guys cook for the entire town.
Yeah, well,
And how many people show up?
there's always 100 or so. Yeah,
Oh.
we usually several hundred. Yeah.
How long
And the niece
before?
that just called, she's always head of that. So.
How long before do you need to start cooking?
Oh, I think she starts the day before.
The day before? I would start the week before. Does anyone donate any of the food, or does the church pay for everything?
AIM agency, not AIM agency, but the beef, what do you call it?
The jerky.
The jerky place.
Okay.
They used to go to church here, and they lived here at Keys.
Okay.
And he's so generous with us that if you order meat through him, well, he's going to donate it, you know.
Okay.
So the last time we didn't even ask him to order the meat because he also always makes a big cash donation too.
That's nice. So do you serve, so that Thanksgiving dinner, is it only people in the community, or do you get people from outside the community that come?
Anybody can come.
Anybody can come.
Yeah. In fact, kind of started it for the unchurched, but it's gotten bigger than that. So.
Howard showed me in the community center a flyer for a gathering in it, and it's sort of it shows all the games for the kids, maybe getting pennies out of the mud pond.
Now that's at Boise City.
That was a Boise City.
That's at Boise City. Yeah, it's they do that. It's the 1st of June that they always have that going on over in Boise City. Yeah, and it's called Santa Fe Trail Days. The Santa Fe Trail Days came through Keys in 1925. That's what started Keys, the year I was born. So I know how old Keys is.
Can't forget. Does Keys do anything for the Santa Fe Trail Days? Or did they used to?
Well, they get always pick a queen from over here. I mean, every 3 years they pick one from the Felt community.
Okay.
1 year, and then from Boise City the next year, and a king, the queen and king.
Do people from Keys participate in that whole event in Boise City?
A lot of them do. I haven't been over there to the parade for a few years, but I used to go all the time.
Did Keys have things like 4th of July parades that you remember as a child?
Well, we have an alumni.
Uh-huh.
We used to have an alumni parade every other year. And, well, we still do every other year, but they're not nearly as big as they used to be. And, well, yeah, I was active in the alumni for a long time. I was a treasurer. In fact, I'm the treasurer still about everything in town.
That's those bookkeeping skills.
So would you say now that there's a few people who do a lot of things, or has there been a new generation of people taking on
There needs
those?
to be a new generation.
That's why you're still the treasurer.
Yes. I finally told them that, well, I'm going to be 90 years old when we have another one of these. Don't believe I want to do that anymore. So.
Do you guys have a big event for Easter?
They do out at Camp Billy Joe. In fact, this year, my daughter and son-in-law from Campo took their motorhome out there, and I went out there with them.
So people from Keys go and do they ever participate in it, or they're just there, they watch?
There might be, well, not many people. It's mostly people from the Felt, and I have a granddaughter and her husband that live out there. They have 3 boys, and they were all in it this year.
Okay.
It's really nice.
Yeah, it is nice.
Have you been there?
I have been there 1 year, a few years ago, and
yeah.
I know that they work really, really hard on it all year long.
Yes.
Right on the rocks.
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
It's
the
really
passion.
impressive, I think. Yes.
Because they make all their own costumes.
They do.
And they practice. I mean, they practice for months in advance.
Well, a month anyway.
Yeah.
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 You were talking about the growth of Keys, and I know at one point they were thinking about putting a hog farm here, and there was a little controversy. Can you tell me about it?
Well, there was people that didn't want it, so it didn't go through. That's just about all I can say about it.
Yeah.
Because I thought it would be a good thing. It was not exactly a hog farm, but it was something different. It was going to be on Howard's.
On Howard's.
Well, I think he sold them some land out here at the edge of town to build something on it. And it wasn't a hog farm, but...
Yeah, I can't remember what it was.
They weren't going to really raise hogs there, but it was... And I thought it would be fine.
A little industry to town.
Yeah. But it didn't go through, so...
I know I've met quite a few former mayors.
Oh, have you? From here.
from here in my courses of time. So, how does that work? Is the mayor important? Is the city manager important?
Well, the city manager's pretty important.
Yeah.
And I guess the mayor is too. We've had good mayors, and we've had some that weren't so good. But
Yeah. I just,
But
it
isn't
seems
a
like
paying
people might be
job.
taking turns. Or
I don't
something.
think it's a paying job. I've
Yeah.
never been mayor. I think it's just a thank you job.
Yeah, thankless job.
Just like all the other jobs.
I'm interested in the school, and when did they build the new school with the pool?
The high school.
Yeah.
They were building it when we had that bad blizzard in
In the 50s.
57.
Mm-hmm. And how has the high school changed since then? I know that
Well, it got bigger, and then it got it's a lot smaller. Well, all the schools in the high school now, because they had that nice grade school building, but it had asbestos in it, and they came in and cleaned that out. But the grade school never got back in the grade school building.
So what are the challenges the school faces?
Well, the population mainly.
How do you think the town sort of rallies around it to support it? Because everyone we talk to, the school's very important to the town.
Yeah, it is. And, well, people turn out for things that they have down there, like this. A couple of weeks ago, they had a musical, and it was really good.
Can you remember, either from your own childhood or maybe from your children, exceptional teachers?
Oh, yes.
So
My second grade teacher was second and third grade. I thought was wonderful.
What was her name?
But Gladys Bowles. She came from out around Wheels or somewhere there. But anyway, she was my second grade teacher, and that's why I spell pretty good today, because she always gave a prize at the end of the month if you didn't miss a word all year in your spelling. And I missed one word one time, and it was prize.
Those are the things that stick with you, I know.
And you never missed it again. So you got a lot of prizes.
I did.
Did you have a lot of treats growing up, or because treats seem really important? So it sounds like you didn't get a lot of
We
them,
didn't
and so
get a
you
lot of treats.
remember.
When we came to town on Saturday, and Uncle Bill gave us something. That's when we had a treat. Yeah.
How do you think kids are different today than the way how it was
my
when
goodness.
you were a kid?
Kids are spoiled today.
Kids are spoiled. So when did you get treats? You got treats when you came to town. You got treats when you spelled something correctly, and then Christmas and Easter.
Oh, yes.
But you couldn't just say, "Mom, I want."
No, well, my mother baked her own bread, and if I got to cut the heel off, I was still warm. That was a treat.
Fresh bread.
Did you have any neighbors you could go over to their house and they'd give you treats?
Well, no, not really.
How about your sisters? They were all older than you. Did they spoil you?
Well, I expect they did. They think they did. I don't remember my oldest sister ever living at home, because she got married when I was 2. And she had twins when I was 4, and I can remember when they were born that they didn't live, and because they were tiny. It was about the size of one of my dolls.
Oh, wow.
And then when I was 6, they had a boy, and so my nieces and nephews were more my age than my sisters were.
So that makes you close
So
to
I
your
played it.
nieces.
They always lived close, within 2 miles usually.
Did you mostly play outside for fun, or did you?
Outside,
Yeah.
yeah.
What kind of games did you play?
Oh, when we were in school, we had this big old ocean wave, which I'm sure that would be outlawed anymore, what we've played on. Guys that get inside of it and make it go so fast, they could almost swing you off, We had a teeter-totter, we played on that, and we played running games, things like that. And I rode a horse to school one year. a Shetland pony.
Oh,
Wow.
that's fun.
Took 10 minutes to get, well, it was 3 miles away and took 10 minutes to get to school and 30 to get home.
Why did it take so long to get home?
Well, no, it was the other way around. It took 30 minutes to get to school, 10 minutes to get home. It was the other way around.
So where did the horse go?
Well, they had a barn there and you just tied him up.
Did a lot of kids bring their horses to school?
Not when I went to school. Now my sisters
All brought their horses to school.
well, they had a cart that a horse pulled.
Okay.
Oh, like a
back-
school bus? Was the school cart or?
Well, it was just an open cart, and the horse pulled it to school, and they rode on it. Of course, there was 3 of them and going, and
So cart.
I had the aunt that homesteaded. She taught there 1 year, so she rode with them. So.
I had the pleasure of hearing about all the different schools, but could we talk about? I know there was Plainview. There's the one. What is the name of the one that you went to?
That was Berg. That was the school that I went to for 8 years. Yeah, that was a grade school. Yeah.
How many rooms was that school?
2. Just 2 rooms. Well, there was doors, a long row of doors that folded up in between it, like when we had a program. It had a stage on one end, and they would open up those doors, and then it would be one huge room. It was really a pretty good sized school, but it got smaller and smaller,
And they closed it down.
and they closed it down.
Do you remember when they closed it down?
Yes, the year I started high school.
What year was that?
I'm trying to think. I graduated in 1943 from high school.
Okay.
4 years before that.
Yeah, so 39 maybe.
Maybe 39.
What other schools were there in the county?
On my land, there was a little grade school. I remember there was Sandy Hook.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we went to take our 8th grade exams, because the county was head of our school, and had a county superintendent. And I remember 1 year when we had one that was getting along in years, I guess. I mean, he looked old to me at the time. And he went to sleep while he was visiting us one day. He was nosing over in his chair. But anyway, yeah, they'd go visit school once or twice a year. But he was the county superintendent,
So
And then there was a Sandy Hook, and there was Bunker Hill. Oh, there was a lot of schools. I can't even remember all the names.
So pretty much everyone could walk to school somewhere, even if you lived
could
out.
walk. In fact, I used to walk home from school sometimes. It was 3 miles.
And so in the little schools, maybe there would be one, is it like that sort of one teacher per school?
In the real small ones.
In the real small ones, yeah.
We had 2 teachers until I was in the 5th
Fifth
grade,
grade.
and then the school got smaller. That was when people started moving away about that time.
That must have been hard work for those teachers to teach multiple grades.
Well, it was, but, I learned a lot.
Yeah.
Because I studied at home and didn't and listened to all the classes as they taught. So I learned.
Right.
Right, in advance maybe than if
Yeah.
you'd just
Yeah.
been all with all second graders.
And I always liked to read
Was there a library here?
here in town. Not a public library, but a library through the school.
Through the school had
Yeah.
a library, so you
Yeah.
you take out books from there.
Well, I did through the winter. When I was in school, yeah. And my folks always had books.
And you mentioned your mother taught you to bake. What else did your mother teach you that were
She
important?
didn't teach me much about cooking.
Okay, she didn't.
I was the one that had to run the errands down to the storm cellar to get the canned stuff.
So was your mom a cook?
Yeah, she was a good cook.
But she didn't teach you about cooking.
She didn't teach me much about cooking. Well, she cooked on a oil stove, and I didn't like cooking on that stove.
So did you have to learn how to cook when you got married?
I did.
Was it hard at first?
Well, at first, yeah. Had to learn how to dress chickens and all that sort of thing. So.
That's all hard work.
Yeah, I haven't dressed a chicken for a long time. But they sure were better.
I'm sure. So growing up, the chores you said you'd have to go get water. What other things were you responsible for when you were growing up? What kind of chores did you have to do?
Well, I never did have to milk a cow. My older sisters, I think, did, except my oldest sister. I mean, my sister next to me, she dried them up, I think, when she milked, so she got out of it.
That's a way to do it.
I think you said you didn't have running water to your parents' house.
Oh, no.
When you moved with your husband, do you have water and electricity? Or?
We didn't have electricity for a long time. We had gas lights that hung from the ceiling, propane gas, and we had a gas stove, and we did have, before the summer was over, we had running water in the house.
Running water, that's good.
Because we had got a storage tank, built a well house, so we did have running water. But
was that stressful not having those things, or?
Well, you didn't. Everybody was that way.
Yeah.
Okay, so you didn't think about it.
Didn't know better.
No, I just didn't know any better.
When you dug the well, do you remember that? I mean.
No, it was already dug a long time
before we were there. Yeah. Oh, I mean, but that the house you and your husband had, or no?
Well, it was already there too, because somebody else had lived there previously on that quarter.
Yeah. I mean, I think about them with their big machinery and bits, and so then I try to think about how they did it.
The well that on the farm where I grew up was very deep. It was over 200 feet deep, but it was only 90 feet deep to water where I lived when I got married. So I helped my husband pull a sucker rods out sometimes, but and it didn't take a whole crew to work on that well, but it did.
It's a big one.
And now it probably would be even deeper to dig a well.
Water is, I think it's drying up, you know.
Do you think the water here is drying up? Do you think that's changed?
It's getting lower, I think.
Do you think in 50 years there'll still be water?
I don't know.
You don't know?
That's something to think about.
Do you think people do think about it?
Not enough. I don't think. I mean, you know, the irrigation takes a lot of water.
Yeah.
I remember when we met before, you were telling me about remembering Richard Garner as a child. So, are there other people still in town that you've known all your life that you have any fond stories about? Or?
Well, let's see. Down the street is Lois Golay lives, and she went to school at Berg, but she wasn't as old as I am. But she did go to school at Berg.
Outstanding. It's really unique to know people your whole life.
Yes, it is. Yeah. It is.
Anyone else?
Well, surely there's still some people. Well, of course, my niece that just left, and she lives at Kiowa, Colorado, and then my niece that lives out here, just the side of the cemetery. She's 8 years younger than I am, so she. I remember. Because we played.
Yeah, you're almost like brother and or sisters.
She was more like she and her brother were more like sisters, brother and sister to me than my own sisters were. And there was one book I always had to read to them before they'd go home.
What was the book? Do you remember?
Johnny and Jenny Rabbit.
So you talk about all of these, knowing everybody and growing up with everybody. Do you still know everybody in town?
Oh, no, I don't. I don't know.
So
any of the kids that go to school anymore even.
So that's changed.
That's changed. I mean, I used to know a lot more people when I worked, but since I retired, I don't get acquainted with the new people that move in.
Are there a lot of new people moving in, or are they mostly kids of kids? People having...
Like that. But they've lived here quite a while. There's a lot of Mennonites that live here now, and they mainly work for people, work for the farmers. You know.
When did the Mennonites begin to come?
Well, it's been several years now, maybe. Time goes by pretty fast. Maybe 10, 15 years ago.
Are there family family names that have been around since the 1914s? Other homestead families that are still around?
Well, not the original people. There's still some kids, you know.
Right.
like Lois Golay down here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking of her. And then Richard Gardner that lives out in the country. And the Bananas.
So there's some.
There's some, yeah, that have been here a long time.
Do you think there's a lot of out-of-staters that own land, or people that are absentee farms?
There is absentee farmers, yeah.
So do you see that as a good thing for the community because it gives some other people a chance to farm land, or do you see that as a problem for the community because no one's there?
Well, I think they mostly have it leased or rented to somebody, and somebody takes care of it.
Right.
So I guess it helps the community because it helps somebody in the community.
So to get back to that question I asked you earlier about what makes this community special, you were saying the people. So could you describe that a little bit more, just more of what are the characteristics that you think the people here have?
Well, just they care for people and they care for others, you know. And if something happens in the family, you know, they're there. You could about ask anybody to do something for you. If they can, they would. Just caring people, I'd say.
Caring people.
When you came to town on Saturdays, and a lot of kids and families came, I guess, on Saturday. Saturday was a come
Saturday
to
afternoon
town.
was the day to come to Keys. In fact, when I was a little kid, they had a theater. It was silent movies, and I couldn't read yet.
But it was still exciting, I'm sure.
Yeah, it was, yeah. So while my mother did her trading, while my dad and I went to the movies. And it was down here, well, where the Oddfellow Hall is now, really. But not in that building, but it was
Close.
on that lot there. Well, I remember it.
So was the street packed with people? Would there be people everywhere?
There'd be a lot of people in town on Saturday afternoon, yes.
Was there a department store? Where would you buy clothes? Or did everybody make their clothing?
People made a lot of their clothes, yeah. I made my girls' clothes.
You did?
Yeah.
Was there a fabric shop? Or would you need to get it someplace else?
I'm trying to think if there's any place to buy material here in town. I think there was. And then later there was a kind of a clothing store.
So did your mother teach you how to sew?
She did because I was in 4-H.
Okay.
I didn't care much about sewing then because it was a treadle machine, but I learned and won some prizes.
That's great.
Took some 4-H trips.
Yeah. Did your kids do 4-H as well, or?
My kids didn't care much for 4-H. They were in scouts and
Yeah, that was their extra.
yeah, that was their extra thing that they did. Yeah.
So you said you took some 4-H trips. Where did you go?
Well, let's see. 2 years I went to the Oklahoma State Fair, and we stayed right on the fairgrounds in a big old dormitory.
When was that?
Oh, that was when I was in high school.
When you were in high school?
Probably a sophomore or junior or something like that. And there'd be like probably 6 of us go from around the county. And anyway, slept in bunk beds, and I mean, just about that much between them. But we did stay right on the fairgrounds, and we could go out and tour the fairgrounds, and we had to do judging and things like that.
Wow.
While we were there, but
Was that the first time you went to Oklahoma City?
that was probably the first time I was ever in Oklahoma City. Yeah, it was. But the first 4-H trip I remember taking was to Enid. And we,
That's pretty far away, too.
yeah, it was pretty far away. And we stayed in the Youngblood Hotel, I think was the name of it, if I remember right. And it was 17 stories high, and I'd never been in such a tall building.
Yeah. So what did you get, did you have, did you visit many cities when you were young?
No. No.
So would Oklahoma City have been the biggest city you had visited?
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah. How did you feel in cities? Did you like cities? Were you afraid of them? Were they just different?
They were just different.
Yeah.
You know, always had friends with
Yeah.
them.
Because some people gravitate to cities. Some people, like, when they get in the city, they
I
just
never
can't
wanted
wait
to
to be
live-
home because they like the country better.
Yeah. I never wanted to live in the city.
Yeah. I like to visit cities and leave. So 4-H was good for you then?
Yeah, it was good for me.
Mm-hmm. Was your husband in 4-H too?
No, he wasn't.
So in high school, did the two of you participate in any clubs together?
Not clubs, no, not in high school that I can think of. Main thing was you went to the movies at Boise City because we didn't have a movie theater in Keesey.
Mm-hmm. So what made you notice him? You grew up with him, and he was just another boy in the...
He was in my class.
He was in your class, and that's when you noticed him?
Well, yeah. When we were initiated as freshmen, we didn't even know each other then. Why?
Okay, you didn't.
No, and they made him carry a Bible around and act like a preacher or something. And I was supposed to be the preacher's wife.
So that's how you met. Was hazing. Did you immediately like him when you met him?
Well, I guess. I dated another guy more than I did him in high school.
When did you realize he was the one?
Well, towards the senior year, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And what was it about him that was so special to you?
No, I don't know. He was just a nice guy.
Nice guy. Nice guy's good.
What else would you like to share with us or with your grandkids or your great? I guess you have great grandkids at this
I
point.
have 25. One great.
25 grandkids.
What advice would you
Great
give
grandkids.
them? What advice would you give kids today?
Oh. Just hang in there and do the best they can. You know?
That's good advice.
Yeah. Yes, I have 14 grandchildren.
14 grandchildren.
And they're all married except two youngest granddaughters aren't. One of the granddaughters has taught in Japan, taught English in Japan for a couple of years.
Uh-huh.
She's back at Hayes now. She graduated Hayes, Kansas, and now she's working on her master's there. And her 3 brothers all went to school up there, and they all live around Hayes. One of them lives in Hayes, and they all work at Hayes.
So you went through a lot of very difficult things: the dirty 30s, the 50s drought, your husband's illness. How did you hang in there? What was your secret?
Oh, I don't know. You just had to be strong.
You just had to be strong.
Yeah.
Did you ever have a day where you just were like, I don't know, I want,
I don't think so.
No.
I've always been more up than that, usually.
Mm-hmm. And it sounds like it helps because there's a lot of people here that were always
Oh,
around
yes,
to help.
yes. The people helped and family.
I was thinking of your advice to hang in there. Maybe that's the best advice you could give is hang in there. Well, any other things you want to say to us? Any other stories?
Well, I'm not thinking of any more right now. Guess I've got lots more stories.
I know you
Come
do.
back. Well, we appreciate the stories you did tell us today.
I know we do.
Yep. And so we want to say thank you for that.
All right.
I'm gonna pause.